Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. But before I get going here, I want to apologize should there be any noise from the rain and thunderstorms that are outside where I'm currently working right now. I'm on the tail end of a vacation here in the North Woods of Wisconsin, right here in a little town called Minocqua, and we've got a lot of thunderstorm activity around us, and so I don't have any other option of where to record. I have to get out of the cabin where everybody's still asleep and come out and record in my truck. So I just want to apologize. It's not some sort of cruel joke that I'm playing on those that have not seen rainfall in quite some time. Now, some of the storms that are coming through us yesterday produced some incredible video and imagery here in parts of Minnesota. And I'm going to link this particular YouTube video taken by Scott Peak to show you this incredibly up-close intercept of a tornado that moved through parts of Minnesota. Those storms can be easily seen here on this visible satellite animation, which goes from mid-morning yesterday till sundown. You can see the complex of thunderstorms that is racing across parts of the northern plains getting back into Minnesota. Where these storms are originating from is this circulation that you see up here in parts of Montana getting up into Saskatchewan. This low pressure cell will be moving across the Canadian provinces here, and it'll be draping a front right out ahead of it that will be pulling all the way through the eastern Corn Belt. We're going to take a look at those precipitation totals in just a few moments. But I want to show you something important, not only now in the forecast, but in the upcoming few weeks. You see the organization of the storms that are right here along the frontal boundary. You can see them all oriented right along that boundary, and therefore with the stronger forcing here, we got these large complexes of thunderstorms. But out ahead of it in the heat over here in the eastern Corn Belt, all you see is these pop-up thunderstorms that move through this particular region. And as those storms did pop up in that area, it's a hit or miss scenario. Can you see it over here in the eastern Corn Belt? Some places got plenty of rain out of these pop-up storms. Other places were missed entirely, versus the frontal boundary that you saw stretched back and through here, on which more storms were ignited. Now, some of the storms last night formed this massive squall line that went racing through parts of southern Nebraska into northern Kansas, and they're still moving through early this morning. But it left in its wake numerous reports of not only strong to severe winds, but also a few tornado reports in parts of Nebraska as well. Now, the tornado picture you saw at the beginning was from this cluster of storms up here in parts of Minnesota, but we did get wind reports, non-tornadic wind reports, out of the storms that moved through parts of Nebraska last night that exceeded 100 miles an hour. This caps off what has been a very busy start to the month of July in terms of severe weather reports, with almost 1,800 reported from the 1st through early this morning. And you can see where a lot of the thunderstorm reports have been coming from, in the northern and central plains and here in the eastern part of the United States. Now, we're going to talk more about the rainfall that is coming here to the eastern U.S. in just a few moments due to a tropical system that is taking shape off of the Carolina coast. But before I get there, I want to point out first, our severe weather threat today, I just pointed an arrow to it, got 3 separate regions all kind of linked together here as this front pulls through of where we're watching for strong to severe storms. Working our way into the day on Friday, again, it's going to be parts of the north central plains that we're going to watch for the potential for strong to severe storms. As we work our way into the weekend, it's going to be this slow moving boundary that comes through here that could possibly give us, again, chances for strong to severe storms. Over the last 72 hours, a few things to point out here. Quite a bit of rainfall moving through this section of the United States on these thunderstorms, and we have got flooding in parts of the Dakotas and into Nebraska, as well as parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Now, we're getting this flooding on the heels of what had been quite a bit of drought, and I'm going to show you the drought monitor in just a few moments. But do notice the highly scattered nature of the storms here in the eastern Corn Belt. So there's a lot of holes in this that I want to make sure folks can see. And lastly, before I move away from this figure, the low pressure cell that did slowly track across the southern region is now sitting just off of the southeast coast. I'm going to show you a radar animation here just so you can see that center of circulation, because the National Hurricane Center has given this an 80% chance of continuing to develop into a tropical system over the next 5 days. And you can see the center of circulation just off the southeast coast of North Carolina and the associated scattered convection that we had around that low pressure cell yesterday moving through parts of North and South Carolina. So, where are we anticipating this going? Well, it's going to run right along the coast of the east coast of the United States. And as it does so, really increase the precipitation chances along the coast. Now, as it moves up into the northeast, we could really work hard on helping to eliminate some drought that we have seen develop in parts of the northeast. But before we get our latest drought monitor update, which again will come out midday today on Thursday, I wanted you to see the most recent update from last week. I do anticipate drought relief here and here, but possibly some expansion in this part of the Corn Belt, maybe even getting back into parts of Iowa. And that's because over the last week, you can see here by looking for those dark reds where we've really missed out on a lot of the precipitation. The eastern Corn Belt getting up into parts of the northeast, there are pockets that have not seen rainfall while we've endured some very high temperatures. And then notice much of Iowa missing out on a lot of this precipitation as well, while it's been extremely wet in Montana and the Dakotas. Now, these maps that I always show you here are always 1 day old, and that's because the AHPS, the place where we get this data, releases the data 1 day late. So we did bring in some precipitation in through this part of Nebraska just last night with that powerful squall line. But this is an important picture to keep in the back of your mind as we work forward in this precipitation forecast first. Ready? So from the National Weather Service, this is their blended product looking over the next 7 days at total accumulated precipitation. And what we do see is that across a significant part of the kind of U.S. ag belt, the Corn Belt right here, we do see picking up better than 1/2 inch. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of this is coming through the eastern Corn Belt on a widely scattered kind of thunderstorm regime. And we're again watching that low skirt through Canada, on which the very weak frontal boundary tries to press through over the weekend. Now, out ahead of this, you can see the low pressure system that will be moving up along the east coast. And as we talked about, possibly some very good rain for parts of the northeast. But in the western United States, things are looking very dry, which is typical of this time of year, except for the fact we have yet to really get the southwestern monsoon going. And it has been extremely hot in parts of Arizona. I'll show you that in a few moments. So, given that there are so many places that are desperate for rainfall, especially in the eastern Corn Belt, I want to give you 3 different model updates on what this precipitation looks like. We're starting first with the European model. You can certainly see it has the corridor through which the front will be passing, picking up, anywhere between 1/3 to in some locations picking up 1.5 inches of precipitation. But the major thing that these models really struggle with is picking up on how convection or thunderstorms puts down its rainfall. So if you notice, the European model, a model that that I trust quite well, has this forecast. Let me show you the GFS. Ready? European here. This is what the GFS is forecasting. It is considerably wetter over in this part of the eastern Corn Belt. And look at this section right in through here through parts of Iowa and getting from Nebraska into Kansas. I'm going to take those drawings up there so you can see the differences. This is the European. This is the GFS. Both models picking up on the same boundary moving through, but having entirely different precipitation amounts out of them. What's going to be critical is for us to watch over the weekend who gets the rain and who does not get the rain, so that we can understand who's going to be most vulnerable to the upcoming heat stress, and I'm going to talk about that in a few moments. I want to add one more model into the mix. It's the one you're looking at here. It's Germany's ICON model. You can see that it is almost like a blend of the other 2 models, but overall, all 3 of them all have a very different picture on how this precipitation is going to come through. So what I'd like to do next is I want to walk through the European model just to get an idea of the timing of this. So let's get it playing. We'll pause it right here and walk through these next few days. The low pressure that's moving through Canada, again, out ahead of it, there's a weak frontal boundary such that in the overnight hours tonight, we're going to watch right in through here for the potential for those strong to severe storms, which we talked about. Now, as we go into the day on Friday morning, Friday afternoon, you're going to see the frontal boundary. It's very weak. We'll be moving through the eastern Corn Belt. So widely scattered storms here, while out ahead of it, that low pressure cell that the National Hurricane Center is watching is sitting right here off of the coast of Maryland and Delaware. As we go through the evening on Friday, so here's Friday evening, this is now getting into Saturday morning. We can see that the frontal boundary sweeps through very quickly, and we're going to have to wait to see how much rainfall we did get inside of the area that I'm circling. Saturday morning, we're going to watch for our next system to possibly be bringing some more precipitation from the Dakotas into Nebraska. But this is the system where the GFS and the European deviate on the position of this rainfall right in through here by Saturday afternoon. Working away from Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening, and now into Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon and evening, we can see a lot of widely scattered storms here in the eastern Corn Belt as the broader trough sweeps into that area. But that trough will be moving out quickly, so the cool down over the weekend here will be short-lived. You can already start to see it taking shape with the low pressure that's developing up in parts of Alberta, over into Saskatchewan, and out ahead of it, a very weak front that could be bringing in some heavy precipitation here into the Dakotas. But that front will not extend far enough into the south such that by midweek next week on the 14th, 15th, and 16th, we could be seeing some pretty extreme heat moving through this section of the United States. So here you are, middle of the afternoon on Tuesday the 14th, working our way into the 15th now. What do we notice? Well, where that heat is, all around its edge, we're going to be seeing those strong to severe storms. See them right in through here. This is now looking out at next Wednesday, getting us out into next Thursday. And that will be the question. Are we able to bring in enough thunderstorm activity through this area to provide some relief from some of that heat? Now, I don't dare go beyond this time period with an operational model. So let's switch over to our ensembles to get a better idea on what to expect. First, a bit of forecast verification. I'm really trusting, especially the European model, out to about 10 days. And this is the reason why. This was a forecast from June 29th. It was a 10-day forecast. And you can see we had ridging here, a trough in the west coast, and then broad ridging across this section of the United States. This was valid for 0Z on the 9th, which was last night. You can see that the model found those features. See the trough here? It was there in the forecast. You can see the broad ridge out ahead of it. So the European model out to 10 days is doing a pretty good job. But what about beyond that? Is any model doing a good job beyond that? Well, from that same date, the 29th, this is the 13-day forecast. And now this is valid on, Saturday night. And so is this map, but it's only a 72-hour forecast. Notice at that time scale, this trough was not very well represented here in the long-range outlook. We did get the position of the ridge sitting here, but same with this trough. It was really not well represented. So right now, out to about 10 days, we have pretty good confidence in the models. But beyond that, I'm losing confidence. So let me show you how things are progressing. This is now valid next Wednesday evening. Here's the trough that's sweeping through the northern part of the United States, on which right in through here we could see our thunderstorm activity. But the ridge is sitting right down here, and it's going to prevent that frontal boundary right into this one right through here from sweeping through much of the Corn Belt. So that's why we're anticipating the Canadian prairies in the north central United States as being the most stormy. Let's go from there out to the day 10 forecast. So this is about as far as we're going to reliably trust the models. And this is the concern. I'm circling for you here the 594 decameter height surface. In other words, this is the position of the ridge, and it is very high. Under that, through, let's just call it day 7 through day 10, I'm anticipating very high temperatures in through this area, pushing through the 90s, maybe even eclipsing triple-digit heat at times. You can still see the general flow of the atmosphere. It's north, and there's a trough that is over the west, and therefore the atmosphere is allowing ridging to build in the midsection of the United States. As we work our way out to day 13, though, you see the models keeping that ridge in place. But I'm just going to call this into question a little bit because we might have a few subtle features moving through the jet stream flow that could possibly disrupt this. We do get our telltale 3 highs. See them? The subtropical highs in these 3 areas. And this is a pattern that tends to allow for a lot of heat and potential drought development should the Gulf of Mexico close off. And I'm going to talk to you about that in a few seconds. So week 2, July 16th through the 23rd, notice all along the periphery, from Canadian prairies through the north central prairies of the United States to the Great Lakes, we have our storms. It is to the south of it where we're anticipating potentially pockets of regional flash drought development should these areas not get storms. So I ask a question, does the Gulf of Mexico moisture transport shut down? You know, that's a question I've been asking a lot lately. So we're going to look here in the low levels of the atmosphere, and what you're going to watch in this animation is in color temperature anomalies, and we're going to start a week from now, next Thursday, okay? But the streamlines represent the winds in the low levels. What we don't want to see is anything that stops flow like this. Because if we continue to get flow like that into this area, we'll get thunderstorms. So let me take off those drawings and let's play this forward. What you're going to notice is that moving throughout next week into the day 10, day 12, day 13, day 14, and 15 time period, we do continue to see open Gulf of Mexico moisture transport. Now, the good news about that is that means that we are going to see why these scattered storms in this whole area with much wetter conditions here in the northern plains getting up in the Canadian prairies. So we're not shutting this down where we're not getting any precipitation, but it's going to look just like the satellite imagery and the radar imagery I showed you at the beginning, where everything's kind of freckled and dotted around the Corn Belt. Keep a very close eye on this. Next, as we start to talk about temperatures and wrap up this forecast video, I want to show you a map that represents the number of days from May 1st through July the 7th back in the year 2012, where we recorded days where the temperature exceeded 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this was 2012. This was the last time, really, we saw widespread high temperatures across much of the middle part of the United States. This is what we've got so far this year. Ready? This is 2012. This is what we've experienced over that same time period, May 1st through July the 7th. What I am anticipating seeing change here is this area going over to several days of well above 90 to 95 degree temperatures here, okay? Excuse me, I've made a mistake. This is not 90 degrees. I needed to relabel this. This is over 95 degree days. So this map here is showing 95 degree days or more that we've had since May 1st. Notice the similarities in the southern plains. So let's start talking about there first. This is what high temperatures look like today on Thursday. You're going to notice in parts of the panhandles getting into Oklahoma, this area right through here will likely not see a high daytime temperature below 100 degrees Fahrenheit for possibly the next 10 days. So as we play this forward, let's go from today on Thursday into what we're expecting on Friday. Again, you see the extremely high heat that's down here in the south central plains. So this is Friday's high temperatures and departure from normal in the colors. This is now Saturday. Look at the 105, 106 degree weather down there in Texas and Oklahoma. As we get into Sunday, this is where the trough moves through. And you can see here return toward near average temperatures except for the south central plains. But we're going to quickly rebound on Monday, getting into Tuesday and Wednesday with those high temperatures once again as the trough pulls into the Canadian prairies, keeping it stormy and cooler than average here, but very hot out ahead of it. Now, where are we going beyond that? Well, let me show you the operational European model runs here in just a few moments. One quick note before I get there. With all of that heat that's coming into the south central plains, you can see that we are going to be exceeding 3 inches of evaporation of surface water down in this area as we work our way through the next week. Now, those temperatures. The European model over here on the right is suggesting that days 5 through 10, not only will we see 100 degree heat here, but it could be at times spreading into the eastern Corn Belt. The GFS is on board with that as well. Let me show you. This is valid on Tuesday the 14th. Now, we know that our operational models struggle to accurately forecast high temperatures beyond the next few days. This is just a known bias. It's a problem with them. That's why we use different products to look at those high temperatures in the near term. But my point is to show you this is widespread 90s and some triple-digit heat here on Tuesday. This is now getting into Wednesday. Once again, you see the same features here. And then we go into Thursday of next week. This is the 16th, and then Friday. You notice that in the south central plains, very high heat. Now, I'm keeping this focused on the Corn Belt because this is an area that I'm most concerned about moving forward with potential drought stress with a lack of meaningful rainfall in the forecast moving forward. Just the hit or miss scattered storms. To finish this all up, I'm going to tell you something. As we work our way to the mid-month and beyond, this all gets all the way out to the 24th, there's nothing changing with the MJO, with the Southern Oscillation Index, or with La Nina, and the global atmospheric angular momentum is low. Therefore, without changes in those features, persistence is going to be our pattern. And given that we're at the middle of a season, it's typically hard to break away from persistence. So I'm concerned about this not only now, but as we finish the month of July and get into August. Key forecast parameters for us to be watching is, do we eclipse or cut off the Gulf of Mexico moisture transport? While I don't see it in the near term, it's something I'll be watching for carefully. I want to thank you for your attention this morning. I hope that you all have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we'll give you more updates very soon. Thank you.